The LDA annual meeting began with reflections by outgoing President Gene Kasinkas on his 3-year term.
As I leave, I wanted to say thank you to the many individuals who have helped me grow and learn as part of LDA of Maine. When I began this position, I felt I was pretty knowledgeable regarding learning disabilities, and I felt comfortable working with parents and educators and adults with all sorts of strengths and skills. The more work I've done, the more I realized how my growth and learning is truly never-ending. My teaching, I believe, has really improved my job as an educator in a school system, an 8th grade teacher, and I just felt it's continued to improve because of my involvement with LDA. The parents I've been able to help have always helped me. I've always learned from every single person, and I've valued all the learning from every single person in LDA.
New Executive Director Dana Winslow told us what's in store for the coming year.
We're doing some really exciting things, helping individuals who have learning disabilities through giving them information, providing advocacy as we need to, and we've got a couple of support groups coming up, an adult support group and a youth support group. Those are both free. If you're interested, call our office for more information about those. They start November the 9th. We're certainly providing individualized assistance to people as well through email and phone calls, and we have a lending library at the office, so lots of things.
Keynote speaker Dick O'Mara updated the audience on new regulations affecting those with learning disabilities.
In the Mr. and Mrs. I case, Judge Hornby said, adversely refers to any negative effect on the kid's education caused by the disability. And the school districts and the department have been trying to raise the bar on this and not make it quite so easy to have an adverse effect. So the new language says that it must be a, quote, something that is not has more than a negative impact that is small or transient. It must be chronic or episodic condition, not merely detectable, but distinctly measurable over time. So that's what you have to have in order to show that your child's disability adversely affects their educational performance. Now, the interesting thing about this is if you actually go back to the statute, you know, there's a congressional enactment and all this stuff. The congressional enactment says nothing about adversely effects, nothing at all. What it says is the child must have a disability and by reason of the disability must need special education and related services. That's all it says. This is something that's been added in a regulatory gloss, and now it's being used to raise the bar. And you're going to see this language in all the forms when you go to meetings, when you get to adverse effect, like it's some independent, freestanding requirement. And it isn't. If the child has a disability and needs special education because of the disability, they should be in. So to the extent that all this stuff goes above and beyond the federal floor, my view is it's illegal.
O'Mara described the political battles over paying for programs and services.
Well, I think the root cause of the battles in Augusta have to do with funding. Obviously, all of education is underfunded, and special education funding is particularly difficult because you're dealing with some kids who can be expensive to educate. And so as the public funding has dried up, and this is an area where Congress has promised funding for 30 some odd years now and has never actually allotted the full sum of money that should be allotted to the states. So it starts right at the top. And then the states have to make up the difference because there are federal mandates for these kids. And it's very hard to do that, through raising the taxes and distributing them out to the various communities. And so as the local resources have gotten more difficult to come by and the federal resources have never risen to the level they were supposed to, there's always a battle to see where corners can be cut and what can be done to reduce the cost of educating kids who cost more to educate than general education kids. What's lost in the shuffle is the fact that effective special education programs are good for taxpayers in the long run because they create long-term, tax-paying, productive, independent living citizens who without the educational services would be a burden on society potentially for decades to come. These kids are the most vulnerable in society in terms of getting their needs met. They all have federal entitlements, and to the extent that they're not being met, that's been one of my goals, is to make sure that as many of the kids get what they're entitled to get under the statute and the regulations.
For Community Update, I'm Brian Knobloch.